Although we cannot see God in the text, we know that he's there because his works show up. I wish I had somebody. Even though I can't see God in my life, I can't physically touch him, I can't see him, but I know he's here with me. Because every time things try to take me out and try to defeat me, his hand always somehow shows up. Bible that does not directly reference God or his name. It was questioned by ancient theologians during the gathering of scriptures the canonic significance of this particular book, as it does not reference God directly. Esther is a very special character because Esther did not know that she was born to be a blessing. And I'm so glad that even when it seems that God is absent in your situation, his power and his hand shows up behind the scenes and ultimately reverses the curse. The book of Esther, in a sense, is like a soap opera, or similarly to me, the 20th century Fox television series that we all know as Empire. A show full of misused power, misused wealth, abused relationships, and of course drama is illuminated in this book of Esther as it is in the television series with no issues. Now, the people that live with me and those of you who know me would be kind of proud of me today, Mother Cora, because they know that I don't watch TV. On the TV I watch HGTV, Coach Hicks. I watch the Food Network and maybe a little Travel Channel, and that's about it. I don't get into a lot of sitcoms, and I don't get into a lot of dramas and different things, and it ain't nothing spiritual or churchy about me that I don't do it. I just don't have time. But this week I said, you know what, let me change my tradition a little bit. Let me do something different. And I didn't catch the episode on TV, so I pulled out my laptop and I said, let me see what all the fuss is about, because everybody on Facebook, Kevin, is talking about Empire. Everybody is saying what's going on Empire. Preachers are on Facebook cursing Empire because it's interrupting their Bible study, and I see choir directors cursing Empire because it's interrupting their choir rehearsals. And I said, well, let me see what the big deal is. Let me see what's going on, because I know we ain't got that kind of people here at Lundy Chapel that'll miss Bible study or miss choir rehearsal on behalf of a TV show. But I said, let me see what all of the fuss is about, Brother Corey. And so I pulled it up on my laptop, Brother Royce, and I saw the first episode to the second season. And I started watching it, and every time I got ready, Brother Benny, to turn it off, try to look for other stuff to do, my face was kind of glued to the screen. Went from one scene to the other scene. I said, let me see if I can pause it, go in the kitchen, grab me something to eat and something to drink, and I'm going to come back to it. It had my mind, Sister Stacy. I couldn't get away from it. And I'm sitting there repenting and saying, Lord, how you going to let this show take over me? I'm saved. Y'all know them excuses we use. I'm a preacher. I don't watch shows like that. But while I'm sitting here calling myself repent, I'm still watching. So let me help you with the text and let me show you something, how this episode, it stuck out to me because it goes so well with the story of Esther, Mordecai, and Haman. There was a man named Haman who devises a plan to kill off all of the Jews. And by the way, the entire book of Esther is a series of 3 or 4 stories that are all chronological. They all come into play with each other. So you can't just read one chapter and get the fullness of the story. You gotta read the whole book. And we don't have time for me to read the whole book to you, but I'm going to give you some things to bring you up to speed, the historical context. There's a man named Haman who devises a plan to kill off all of the Jews, which secretly Esther is by nature, and gets the king to sign off and to approve this system to destroy a people based off of one man, a man who we know as Mordecai. Mordecai knows who has placed this curse on him and his people's lives, and he gives a decree to one of the king's servants through Esther and instructs Esther in chapter 4, verse 8, to go before the king and employ of the king's favor. Plead with the king on behalf of the Jews. Of course, in her insecurities, she replied with an excuse that she and the king are fine. They're on good terms, and lawfully, it has not been 30 days. In verse 11, in the B clause, it talks about how she would not risk going to the king because lawfully, you had to wait 30 days to go to the king and talk to him. And so she made up in her mind. I could see Esther, Esther meaning star, which in what we would call today a diva. She's a diva. She's beautiful, and she knows she's beautiful. Come on, somebody. She got everything in the right places, and she know it. She is a star to the king. As a matter of fact, her selection as a queen came out of her beauty. The king, Ahasuerus, he saw all kind of other ladies, James, and he saw other women that looked good, and they were graceful, and they were eloquent, Sister Nicole, and they were beautiful, and they seemed like they were fitting, but they just did not make the cut after Queen Vashti. And so he saw this young girl named Esther, and she just looked good. He was enthroned by her beauty, and so he calls her to be the next queen. And so with all this favor that she has historically with the king, she tells Mordecai, I can't risk my position where I am now based off of where I come from. She made a classic error. She made a classic error. And that mistake was she was forgetting, or the mistake was her forgetting or not realizing why God had put her in the position in the first place. And there are a lot of us who get so high and who get positions that we lose sight of the real blessing and the power of God that is over our life. But Esther knows to go before the king and plead with him on behalf of the Jews, which he signed off and approved. It jeopardizes her life and her position in the kingdom. But don't you know God will always have, Sister Lynn, somebody in your life that'll humble you? Somebody that'll remind you who you really are. I know you got the degrees, and I know you got the accolades now, but let me remind you, come here, let me remind you of who you really are without the names and the letters that you have. Let me just take you back to where you come from. Let me show you who you are. And Mordecai reminds her, and he responds and says that her purpose was beyond her prominence. Do you not know why God put you here in the first place? He didn't call you to sit. He didn't call you just to be beautiful. Beauty got you in the gate, but work is going to keep you in the position. So Mordecai knows her because he raised her. He was her older cousin. He was like a godfather to her. He raised her, and he knows that she is thinking that she is safe in the palace and she will be overlooked. But Mordecai reminds her that, honey, you from the same blood, you from the same hood that we come from. If they get us, they gonna get you too. And if my grandmother was here, she would say, Momo, you can take the girl out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the girl. And parallel to the story of Esther, Frank Gathers, who I see as Haman, interrogates Cookie. Y'all remember Cookie in Empire? Interrogates Cookie's cousin, Jamel, and ultimately gets rid of him and plans to get rid of Cookie based off of her past. He wants to deal with her based off of what she was and not who she is. So what Cookie does is Cookie goes to Lucius, who we see as Mordecai, the one who knows everything about her, more than anybody else, and warns him of what is going on. And then Frank Gathers sets up the kill for Cookie and explains it to Lucius. However, Lucius Lyons, being the boss that he is, Slick Sly stands up for Cookie and willingly receives her merited demise. And you can't discount the credit. You can't discredit the power of the woman of God in your life. Because when I saw that scene, Deacon Terry, it reminded me of a situation that you have to take men when somebody tries your woman. When somebody comes up against your woman of God, you have to make up in your mind, I'm either going to be a punk about it and let them do what they're going to do, or I'm going to be a man about it and take the kill for my woman. And one problem I have in the church, I'm getting ready to preach, y'all. One problem I have in the church is punk preachers who are afraid to show people what it's like to be in a good marriage. Not just in the church, but one thing that bothers me, Sister Nene, is a man who hides his wife, not for protection, hide her for protection because that's your job, but a man who hides his wife so he can be in the forefront and all the other women can come around him, and your wife at the house making sure everything go good for you. I'm sorry, men, but I gotta step up for women because the first time you let it happen, then somebody else will see it on the corner, and then they'll try to make it happen again. And then when they see it happen, somebody else will try to get it. I wish I had a few women that'll just look to your neighbor and say, man, girl, you better protect your man. You better protect your husband. You better protect him, because it's people that are waiting to come and take the position that God put you in, and if you don't protect it, then it'll be delivered to somebody else. Let me move on. I'm making some of y'all mad. Erica, while I'm watching Empire and I see the heat join up, and Frank Gathers is literally planning to kill Cookie and give it the blueprint to the man that knows her the most. So I start, I'm like, how is it that this man is bold enough to tell her baby daddy, I don't care how mad you get at them, there'll always be somebody special to you. They get mad he goes to her baby daddy and literally outlines the plan to kill her to him. Same thing with Haman. Haman literally, he tries to get rid of Mordecai. But what he did not know, in the midst of getting rid of Mordecai, because of who Esther is, it would get rid of her too. We see when the Esther a.k.a. Cookie, was born in a situation that could possibly ruin her reputation and current status as the queen. She was a Jew. And if word gets out that she could be killed and replaced by her own king, after all, he signed off the decree. And in Persia, when the king makes a law, they can't go back on it. Amen. Mordecai, a.k.a. Lucius, comes to her rescue by reminding her in the midst of her prominence and her position and her prestige that danger could happen, but in the event of danger, he still has her back. Haman, a.k.a. Frank Gather, sets up a plot to kill Mordecai and ultimately dies by his own plan, just like the jaw-dropping cinematic turning point on Frank Gather's when his own men turned against him on behalf of Lucius. And this is what happened when Haman had set up and his plan to set up to kill all the Jews, and especially Mordecai. Word got back to the king by way of Queen Esther, and the king was infuriated. Thus he gave Haman the death that he set up for Mordecai. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad to know that the plans of Haman failed after the king received a word from Queen Esther with him who he found favor. And I'm even happier that he meant to kill, that what he meant to kill Mordecai ultimately promoted him and made it work out in his favor. You got to read the book. The curse that was spoken by jealous, small-minded, insecure people is about to be reversed over your life. You ought to look to your neighbor and say, neighbor, say, don't worry about what they said. Don't worry about how they said it. But whatever they put on you is getting ready to be reversed because God has a greater purpose. He has a greater plan for your life. Everything that they said is about to be transcribed from curses to blessing. As a matter of fact, he's making your enemies your footstool. Everybody can't respond to this because everybody hasn't had their name drugged in the mud. Everybody hasn't had their character challenged. Everybody hasn't had their reputation destroyed. But to the people that know how bad it feels to be inexplicably ashamed, to show your face in the midst of the house of those who designed a devilish demise, can you just witness to somebody and say it's okay because I know God's getting ready to reverse the curse. You ought to look somebody and say, it was good for me that I was afflicted. It was good for me that I was afflicted. It is people that have been sent into the world just to get on your nerve. It's been things that have been sent and assigned to your life to make you crumble and give up. I want you to just think back on all the things that have been spoken against you. All the things that have been spoken about you. All the things that people have said around you and declare that the devil may have meant it for my evil. But God is turning it around. He's turning it around. I love this book of Esther because without mentioning God's name, it gives three major premises that we should never forget about him. We must understand three things about God. One thing you got to understand, that God's power is not limited to what we see. Although we cannot see God in the text, we know that he's there because his works show up. I wish I had somebody. Even though I can't see God in my life, I can't physically touch him, I can't see him, but I know he's here with me. Because every time things try to take me out and try to defeat me, his hand always somehow shows up. You also got to understand that God's presence is not limited to what we feel. I'm going to say that again for those of y'all who think you saved just because you run 7 times. God's presence is not to what we feel. Just because you feel something don't mean his presence there. Just because you got to shake and a jerk and a try to do the Alex and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean his presence there. Sometimes we cannot feel him physically, but we have a blessed assurance that he is still here with us. And you also got to understand that God's purpose is not limited to what we think. It's not limited to what we think. Sometimes he does things that we don't quite understand, but even when it seems unintelligent, socially, or scientifically inappropriate, we ought to remember that he is still God. 1 Corinthians 1:25 talks about even in God's foolishness, he's still smarter than us. I wish I had somebody to give God praise for that. One of my favorite scriptures, even in God's weakness, he's still stronger than us. So it may not make sense to you right now, but you ought to give God praise today because you know it's going to work because he is God. We got to go. So how do you reverse the curse? Ask your neighbor, say he going to tell us how to reverse the curse. First thing you got to do is you got to recognize the curse. You have to recognize the curse. Esther chapter 3, verses 8 through 9. It says, Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there was a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from other people, and they do not keep your laws. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. If it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, and I'll pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, or to bring it into the king's treasuries. So we got a curse. Haman is hating all because one man didn't want to bow to him. He wants to wipe out an entire nation of people based off of one man. Let me tell you something. And I ain't trying to brag or nothing like that, but I done matured and grown so much that if one person can't go with me, I'm still going. Come on, somebody. But one of y'all say amen, I'm still going to preach. Come on, somebody. And you got to make up in your mind that you're not letting small things interrupt the plans that God has for your life. So you got to recognize the curse. Secondly, you have to reaffirm the calling of God. Esther chapter 4, verse 13 and 14 says, And Mordecai told them to answer Esther, Do not think in your heart that you will escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. I love how Mordecai gets real with Esther because Esther feels that she has been promoted queen and she feels like she's untouchable. And most people that feel like they're untouchable, they feel like they're unsinkable. And those who feel like they're unsinkable, they feel like they're irreplaceable. But you ought to let some people know in your life. I dare you to just, when you get home, don't do it right now. You ought to text about 50 people in your contact list. Get on Facebook and let those people know who feel like they in your life and you only going to be blessed because they in your life. You only have favor because they in your. You might need to just send them a red letter and just let them know, honey, I was blessed before I met you. I'm blessed now. You blessed to be around me, and when I put you out my life, I'm still gonna be blessed. You have to remind people sometimes that it was nothing that I've done, but it was the hand of God that came over my life. Yeah, I thank God for the relationship that we have, but I can live without you. I can survive without you. I really don't need you to be happy. I don't need you to be complete. I'm made complete in God. I'm made whole in God. And this is what he tells her in verse 14. He says, For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. You can be quiet if you want to, But because we serve the true and the living God, he going to do what he want to do anyway. You in your house, y'all can go over there and be quiet over there if you want to. I wish I had some noisy people at the church today. You can sit there in silence if you want to, but there's a group of people that know that my deliverance might just come out of my praise. And if you push me the right way, I might just give God praise in your face. All right. Tell your neighbor, say, you got to open your mouth. And thirdly, finally, you have to know how to receive the king's favor. I told you, you can't just stay in one chapter. You got to go from chapter to chapter in this book. Esther chapter 6, verse 10 says, then the king said to Haman, there's a funny part right here, Tony. Hurry, take the robe and the horse, as you have suggested. Let me give you a little historical context. Haman had suggested to the king, because the king was laying in the bed, and he said, come here, Haman. He said, I want you to tell me, what should the king do for the man who he finds favor? Basically, how should I bless my hitter? How should I bless him? The one who walks with me, the one who is faithful. How do I bless him? And so Haman, thinking that he's the one, he said, you know what, king? You ought to get a robe. Go in your wardrobe and get a nice robe, king. You know what? Go to the stable and get one of your horses. You should also let him live in your palace. And so the king, he looks at Haman. I can just imagine him looking at him, smiling. Then the king said to Haman, hurry up. Take the robe and the horse that you just suggested and do so for Mordecai. You know, that Jew who sits within the king's gate. Leave nothing undone, all that you have spoken of. Everything that you just said do, that you thought was for you, I want you to do it and leave nothing undone for Mordecai. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, God just reversed the curse. He will use your enemies as the primary instrument in blessing you. Cancer might not look good right now, but it'll bless me in the end. High blood pressure might not feel good right now, but it'll bless me in the end. Haters may not seem like they on my side, but they'll bless me in the end. And so today we got to understand now that God has called us for such a time as this, that even in the midst of those who hate us, God will turn the tables and favor will work out for us. Pastor Corbett preached a revival this week, and he said something that goes against the theology and the philosophy of church people today. We always running and saying, Sister Jamise, that favor ain't fair. But Pastor Corbett, Mother Cora, he told the people in the revival, he said, favor is fair. Because favor, it replicates and is birthed out of obedience and sacrifice to God. And I don't know about you, but I think I deserve some favor because I've been faithful over the things that God has given me. And I want somebody to look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I wish y'all would pull the voice out your belly and say, neighbor, say God will reverse the curse. Mordecai was getting ready to be killed at the house of Haman. This is what Haman did. This is why you can't keep all those do boys around you, because Haman and Mordecai didn't realize that they were sending messages from do boy to do boy. And so one do boy was on Haman's side, and he told another do boy on Mordecai's side. He said, we got to go to Haman's house and we got to set up this gallows. And the gallows is going to be 50 cubits high. And in our time, that's 75 feet in the air. And so he gets ready to build up this thing that ultimately is prepared
Thank you for viewing this edition of the Lundy Experience. We pray that this broadcast has been a blessing to you and your entire family. For more information on the happenings at Lundy Chapel, we invite you to visit us on our website at www.lcmbc.com. We also invite you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram. We also would like to invite you to worship with us on 1st through 4th Sundays at 10 o'clock a.m. and on 5th Sundays at 8 a.m. We also invite you to join us every Sunday at 8:45 a.m. for life groups. We have classes for couples, singles, men, women, teen, children, and seniors. Also, every Wednesday, beginning at 6 o'clock p.m., we have a dynamic worship and word study Wednesdays. Classes for adults, teens, and kids are available. We look forward to seeing you at the chapel.